Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. Week 14 is upon us as we head down the backstretch towards the playoffs. Virtually every game has playoff implications. To kick off Week 14, we have the NFC East leading Dallas Cowboys with a record of 6-6, visiting the NFC North Chicago's Bears, who are also 6-6 and on playoff life support. Dallas comes in as a 3-point road favorite with a game total of 43 points. Before I unpack this game, I want to share the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. Up to and including the Monday night showdown between the Seahawks and Vikings, there have been 95 Showdown contests. These Showdown contests have an average winning score of 131.95, with an average winning captain score of 42.14. Since the captain's position represents 32%, the average captain's position represents 32% of the average winning score, I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position. With that being said, the captain's position breaks down as follows, and this is through 95 contests. The underdog running back has appeared in the captain's position for the winning lineup more than any other position, 20 times for 21%. The favorite quarterback, 17 times for 18%. Favored wide receiver has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 16 times for 17%. Underdog wide receiver has been the captain for the winning lineup 12 times for 13%. And the favored running back has been the captain for the winning lineup 12 times for 13%. Underdog quarterback has been the captain for the winning lineup 6 times for 6%. And the favored defensive special team has been the captain for the winning lineup 6 times for 6%. Underdog kicker has been the captain for the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. The favored tight end has been the captain for the winning lineup 2 times for 2%. Underdog tight end has been the captain for the winning lineup 1 time for 1%, and the underdog defensive special teams has been the captain for the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. Now, I also break this down by positions combined, and that's whether they're favored or not. Running backs have combined to be in the captain spot for the winning lineup more than any other position 32 times, which is 34%. Wide receivers are next, 28 times for 29%. Quarterbacks, 23 times for 24%. All others, 12 times for 13%. Now, the overall straight-up record of the captain's team is 66 wins and 29 losses, which is 69%. And that breaks down as follows. Running backs in the captain spot, their teams are 24 wins and 8 losses straight up. Wide receivers, 16 wins and 12 losses straight up. And quarterbacks, 16 wins and 7 losses straight up. And I should give you the percentage on that. Running backs, 75% winning percentage. Wide receivers, 57% winning percentage. Quarterbacks, 70% winning percentage. Now, you're probably asking what these numbers tell us, and do they unlock the mystery lineup for the Cowboys-Bears game? Absolutely not. But we do get some main takeaways from these which can give us an edge, and some of those takeaways are the underdog running backs appear in the captain spot more than any other position. Running backs combined appear in the captain spot more than any of the positions. The captain for the winning lineup comes from the winning team 69% of the time. And those are just things that you can use to give you an edge. And I use those numbers as part of my process. And my overall process is I start off, I take a stand. Who do I think is going to win? And what is the path to victory? What are the good matchups? Run defense, or running game versus run defense, passing game versus pass defense. How are they going to win? Who are the players needed to support this game theory? And then out of those players, I select a few players that I think have a path to being the highest scoring for that game. And I just pick a couple captains and I build my lineups that way. In this game, Dallas is coming in angry after a home loss on Thanksgiving and losers of 2 in a row. The loss by Philly to Miami opened the door a little bit more for Dallas to establish themselves and be in command in the NFC East. The best way to move the ball on the Chicago Bears is via the run, as they have a number 19 DVP versus the running back position. However, Dak has an average of 310 passing yards and 2.6 touchdowns per game in their 6 wins. There are matchups that the Cowboys can exploit in the passing game. Um, Cooper versus Kyle Fuller. Fuller is number 73 ranked cornerback. He's given up 3 passing TDs. You have Cobb in the slot against Buster Screen, who's given up 2 passing TDs. And the passing game could be set up by Ezekiel Elliott and set up the play action. And the Bears are also very vulnerable to the tight end position, which makes Jarwin and Witten interesting options as well. They're number 25 versus the tight end. The Cowboys have been more vulnerable themselves on defense to the run, with a DVP of 17 versus the running back position. And Trubisky has stringed together a couple games in a row that were pretty good. Versus Detroit, he had 338 yards and 3 touchdowns on Thanksgiving Day. And the game before that, he had 278 yards and 1 touchdown passing and 1 touchdown rushing versus the Giants. In both those wins, I want to mention they were both fairly low scoring. The Giants game, the score was 19-14, and the Detroit game was 24-20. Another thing for the Bears is Robinson and Miller are difficult matchups for Dallas. And what a lot of people don't probably understand or realize is, and it was noticeable in the Detroit game, Robinson actually runs 43% of his routes out of the slot position. So, and that's a good matchup for them on paper versus Dallas. Anthony Miller, he's been getting a ton of targets. So those are players that you can factor into this game as well. This game does have a low total, and both teams will come in and try to establish their running game. The Bears are going to want to establish their running game and flex their muscle in defense. But my take on this is I think this is the game that Dallas is going to come out and put it together. I was looking back over some games. Cooper hasn't had very many good games at all on the road. So you're saying, well, what makes you think he'll have a good game this time? The leader of this team is Dak Prescott. The Cowboys were very angry in that last game on Thanksgiving. They've dropped 2 in a row, and it was kind of Miami gave them a gift on Sunday, and I think they're going to try to establish their will against the Bears. If Trubisky's put in a position where he has to throw a lot, he is prone to turning the ball over. He's prone to being inaccurate, and I think that plays into Dallas's hands. So with that in mind, this is the lineup that I'm working on, and I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm actually going to show you 2 that I like, and we'll go over them. I'm going to use Dak Prescott in the flex spot. He's the second most expensive, but he's the leader of the Cowboys, and he's been highly efficient. As I mentioned, in their 6 wins, he's averaging 313 yards passing, and Dak's getting it done for the Cowboys. Win, lose, or draw, he's been getting it done. Next, I'm going to put Cooper. I think Cooper has a really nice matchup against Fuller, who's a number 73 rated cornerback in the NFL. And I think the Cowboys can exploit this. And we haven't had that real big game from Cooper. He really hasn't performed that well for Dallas on the road since he's came to Dallas. He's had a couple really big games. I think his biggest game on the road was actually 20 points. But I really like Cooper. A little bit of concern with some injuries, but he's been practicing in full. I see a dot here. I did check this earlier. I just wanted to practice without limitations Monday. And Garrett expressed optimism that Cooper will be ready for Thursday's matchup against the Bears. And okay, so this doesn't seem to be any problems. He's been getting dinged up in the last few games, but I really like the Dallas passing game this week. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on Zeke Elliott. He'll be a popular captain, and Zeke's a huge part of the Dallas overall game plan. And when they have a phenomenal record when he touches the ball more than 25 times. And I think Zeke will just open up a lot of things for the passing game, and I think that's how they'll get it done. Even though on paper the path to beating the Bears is through the running game. Something I want to mention, please don't shut off this video. I feel like I have a really good understanding of the Dallas Cowboys. I've been a fan since 1977. Through bad and good, I'm a fan here in Ohio. I love the Cowboys, but I feel like I understand their strengths and weaknesses maybe sometimes better than I do other teams. But I can be very unbiased when it comes to the bank account, and I have no problems doing that. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody who hasn't seen any of my videos or doesn't know that. Just wanted to give you that little disclosure. I'm going to put Jarwin in there with, he's got a note too. Let's make sure. Doesn't have an injury designation. Got 2 or 3 targets for 9 yards. But the Bears have difficulty versus the tight end position. And that just gives me, when I have a quarterback in the captain spot, I always want to have 2 targets with him. And if I have a wide receiver in the captain spot, I always like to use the quarterback in the flex spot with him. They just correlate well, and I want to have 2 targets with Prescott. And putting Jarwin in there instead of Witten opens up some other areas for me. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to use the Cowboys kicker. A lot of people were down on him for good reason. And between the 2 kickers and the 2 defensive special teams, I usually only like to use 1. And at the most, 2. I like to go with the kickers because they offer a safer floor. And I generally go with the home kicker or the favored kicker because the favored kicker obviously has a higher implied game total. So it just makes sense, and I have more. And when I have whichever team I have the most players from, I'll use the kicker in that situation as well. So just a couple things that I use. I've never won one of these showdown contests. I've cashed in several, placed pretty high up, and I believe in my process, and I know one day I will take one of these down. Now, the point of me building this lineup for you is not for you to take this lineup and go play it. I'm showing you my process and how I build. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not trying to give you picks, or you can, I mean, if you take this and you put it in the same lineup that I'm in, you see this Cowboy fan 215 in the lineup, that's me. If we split, we split. I'd rather win something or nothing. But I'm going to show you my process and the way that I'm thinking about this game. Next, I'm going to use Robinson. I think he's a difficult matchup for Dallas. Trubisky likes to go to him, and if they have a lead, it would favor the passing game. And to get back in the game, this is where Trubisky will definitely have to go. And that leaves me 8,800, and I'm going to put Trubisky. Now, I've spent all my salary, which in Showdown's not really a good thing. I've seen something recently about the average winning lineups leaving about $1,100 on the table. So this is probably pretty chalky, but I like this, and I'll make some adjustments to it. I don't MME, meaning I don't put 150 lineups in a contest. If I could, I would. I'm just not in the position to do that. I don't have anything against anybody that does that. And kudos to those. It just makes sense for guys to do that. And hopefully one day I'm in the position to do that. But I'll build some different lineups and put a few in this contest, a few in that contest. Now I'll do the 20 entry dollar or the 20 entry quarters. So I'll probably move this around to try to make it not so chalky. But I really like this build right here. I mean, I could do something. I could probably take Meyer out and get... Actually, there's another person in here, Taylor Gabriel, by the way, for the Bears has been ruled out. And this guy right here is an interesting player as well. Now I left 600 on the table, which I actually like. Now that I think about it, I actually like this more because Wims got targeted a lot in that game last week. And we'll just look here. With Gabriel out, is Robinson, Miller, and yeah, he had 6 targets, 5 receptions, scored 10 fantasy points. Yeah, I like him better than with, and Gabriel has been ruled out, so he'll be the number 3 behind Robinson and um, Miller. So I like that better. Just did that on the whim. Huh, whims, no pun intended. But there you go. Now I want to show you another lineup because that one, the first one I showed is not contrarian. I will be using that other one that I just showed you. I like that as a little bit more. And one thing that I suffer from sometimes is FOMO, fear of missing out. And that lineup obviously didn't have Zeke, but I will have a lineup with Zeke in it just in case. And it looks a little bit like this. And this is actually a chalky lineup too. I usually don't have this problem when I'm building, but I have Zeke, and I also have Cooper. Let's see here. We got Zeke and the captain. That's what we got. We got Zeke and the captain. Cooper. Bringing it back with the Bears defense. And Tariq Cohen. Eddie Pinheiro. And I can either put Robinson in there, which that'll be spending all the money, or I could take Robinson out and put Miller in there, who's a really good pick. Miller had last week, he had, let's see here, he had 13 targets in that last game. And he's been getting targeted a ton with, 13 last week, 9 the week before, 11 the week before that. So he's getting a lot of targets. So that's leaving 2,600 on the table. That's a lot. Might be able to take like Tariq Cohen out, and I could probably get Trubisky back in there. And then I could take the Bears out. Yeah, I can't get. If I took Trubisky out, I could actually get Prescott with Cooper, and that would leave me 2,400. Which I don't like to go too far down into the turd area. I will if I have to. Jarwin's to me not a turd. That only leaves 200 on the table. So that's just a little bit of my thought on how I build my lineups manually. And I use the numbers that I talked to you about, the captains, and I try to. The biggest thing with Showdown is correlating, make sense of the lineup, go with a game theory, build around that theory, correlate your players to that. Just don't go in, grab the best players, make sense of what you're doing. And when I've hit the captain, if you get the captain right, that's a third of the issue. And then if you build around him right, that's the rest of the issue. And if you look back at some of the winning lineups, it looks so simple. It's just that right combination, obviously. So now one thing that I also do is I take all the players that I'm interested in, and I utilize a optimizer from a paid site that I use, and I put these players in the optimizer. I pick 4 or 5 captains, at least 1 or 2 from both teams, and I set the minimum maximum exposures in the captain spot and in the flex spot. Generally, they're all pretty close. Like I'm going to have in this particular optimizer that I used, I obviously I had more Ezekiel Elliott than I did David Montgomery, and I set it up like that. I put just a couple rules, like I mentioned before. If I have a quarterback in the captain, I at least want 2 targets in the flex. If I have a wide receiver in the captain, I want a um, quarterback in the flex. And just a couple rules, and I let it go. I set it for 1 unique player, which means I want at least 1 unique player for each lineup. And I let it go. I set it for 150. Sometimes it gives me 150, which can tell me either I got 150 right exact, or there was way more that could have been generated. A lot of times, like tonight, with the exposures and the rules that I had, it only produced 129 lineups out of 150 possible. So if I got the right combination of players and the right percentages, the winner is in that optimizer somewhere. So I let it run. And if you're new to this video, I always share the very first lineup that was generated. Tonight, I'm actually going to show you 2 of them. And so without further ado, this was the lineup created in the optimizer. It had the Bears D. I know it was one of my lower percentage choices at captain, but this was the first lineup, and you'll see why, because it actually opens up a lot. Brent Meyer, kicker, Amari Cooper at wide receiver, Trubisky at quarterback, Dak at quarterback, and Ezekiel Elliott. So I got all the superstars, and that's probably, it's obviously very chalky. I guess you could take the Bears out and put someone else in there and build around them. Um, that's kind of sneaky. The Bears defense isn't really what it used to be, but anything can happen. If the Bears went off, you wouldn't need many to say they got a return for a touchdown and sacked Dak a lot, and he's in comeback mode, and they're sacking him, and they can get a couple turnovers, and they could be the highest scoring, and then all you have is one other player from the Bears and Trubisky, so you never know. I'm not really crazy about that game script because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, obviously, but anything could happen. And I'll probably use that in a quarter lineup somewhere just in case. But I'm going to give you another example. And it had Amari Cooper in the, not in the flex. We had Amari Cooper in the captain spot. Blake Jarwin in the tight end position. It did come back with the Bears D. Montgomery, running back for. And Dallas has been run on. I mean, if you've seen the game on Thanksgiving, Singletary had his way. Josh Allen had his way. That kind of worries me a little bit with Trubisky too. He can run a little bit. He's pretty elusive. So, and they have been, and that's what the Bears want to do. They don't want to have to put it in Trubisky's hands, but they can be run on, and then that's one of their weaknesses. And we have Zeke and Dak, and that left $100 on the table. It's an interesting build. You got the correlation there with the Bears defense in Montgomery, and Cowboys. Looks like early on maybe Zeke's getting his. The Bears get out on top of them. They're going to keep pounding the ball. Dak's going to come back. Cooper in the captain spot. And if this game's projected to have a 43, or the actual game total is 43 points, so it's projected to be low scoring. So the captain might not score, a whole lot. It might not take a whole lot. 9 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown might be good enough in the captain spot for a lower scoring game. But that was the second one I was going to show you guys, and just let you see how my optimizer works. Sometimes I'll move these around, and that's sometimes not been a good thing. As I took my own spin on it, and I took the Bears out, and I really like this Wims at his price, replacing Gabriel. There's going to be a lot of attention on Miller. There'll be a lot of attention on Robinson. He could be pretty sneaky and in the slot. So, I like him as well. So, and that actually, and I like Jason Witten obviously more than Jarwin, but there's $3,400 difference in them. So, getting him in there requires a different build. So, there you go. That's going to do it for the Thursday night showdown between the Cowboys and Bears. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I encourage you to please drop any opinions or comments that you may have below. Please share this video, like it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. My subscriptions have been trending upwards, and my viewers, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you guys coming back and checking out my videos, and I'm really interested in making this channel grow and make it something a lot bigger. I'll be back shortly to post a quarterback video for week 14 as we start building our player pool for week 14. You can also follow me on Twitter at winningabout. Don't forget the injury report tomorrow at 7 p.m. Always check that before any game. You have a play, especially in Showdown. Yeah, you only have 6 players. You get to take a 0. You're probably done for the night. So you don't want to start out with a 0. So always check that injury report. So again, thank you for joining me. Good luck tomorrow night. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you again real soon.